guys. So today's episode will be about the mysterious disappearance of Louis LePrince. He is better known as the father of cinematography, although most of you are familiar with film studies, probably associate the motion picture camera with the first one, the invention with Thomas Edison. And that's a point of contention as far as the supporters of LePrince are concerned. But Louis LePrince had a strange demise, and because of that, he was never able to acquire the patent necessary for the motion picture camera. Edison got that patent, I believe, 3 years after LePrince had invented the first camera, the first motion picture camera. So moving pictures, and it was a big deal. And there are some conspiracies as far as Edison and LePrince are concerned, as well as possibly some other competitors that were existing at that time. So let's get into this then. So this is Louis LePrince, and the question mark is what happened to him. So we're just going to start here. Louis Aimé Augustin LePrince was born on the 28th of August, 1841 in Metz, France. His father was a major in the French army, but it was the company his father kept that had the most dramatic impact on LePrince and photography's future. While nothing more than a curious child, LePrince was introduced to his father's friend, Louis Daguerre, a man who not only captured the young boy's interest, but a man who contributed to the furthering of photography too. For some, the name Daguerre may ring a bell, and this is likely due to his invention of the daguerreotype photography, a process where a silver-plated copper is polished and treated with fumes to make it light-sensitive and then exposed in a camera. You can read more about this process in another section. There have been recent and successful attempts to recreate this technique. So this is the Daguerre technique, and I think you've probably seen these in older photographs, and they're very beautiful because they pick up the it's not just a black and white, it picks up texture in a way that other photographs, black and white photographs, aren't able to do. So this is a very unique photographic technique using copper plates and some sort of gas. But that's an image of Daguerre. It provides a lot of detail in the photograph, which, for a picture that was taken in 1844, that's pretty impressive. Daguerre spent time in his studio with little LePrince and taught him the ways of photography and the chemistry necessary at the time. These childhood lessons led LePrince down a path of arts, which saw him go on to study painting in Paris and postgraduate level chemistry at Leipzig University in Germany. After meeting an engineer by the name of John Whitley, LePrince moved to Leeds, England to work for John's company, Whitley's, as a designer. And during his time at Whitley's, he met John's sister, Elizabeth, who he went on to marry 3 years later in 1869. LePrince started the Leeds Technical School of Art in 1871 with his wife, where the couple built a reputation for color photography on metal and pottery. Their work was so well received it led to exciting commissions from Queen Victoria and the Prime Minister William Gladstone. A decade later, LePrince and his family moved to the United States. While to be achieved. So this is the seal on the outside of his school. It says Louis Auguste LePrince came to Leeds in 1866, where he experimented in cinematography. In 1888, he patented a one-lens camera with which he filmed Leeds Bridge from this British Waterways building. There were probably the world's first successful moving picture. These were probably the world's first successful moving pictures. LePrince's first effort at the moving picture came in the form of a 16-lens camera which rotated between the lenses to take a sequence of frames. He anticipated that for the brain to see a continual image, as opposed to the familiar flick book effect, there needed to be 16 frames per second. LePrince's first solution to this problem was very much an Occam's razor kind of approach. If you would like 16 pictures, use 16 lenses. However, this produced an obvious problem. Each lens was, if only marginally, in a different position from its predecessor, and thus the resulting frames, when put in a row and projected, would create a very wobbly motion picture. Nevertheless, this was LePrince's first patent, which interestingly covered cameras and projectors with as many as 16 lenses. So this is the first camera that he developed. It doesn't really look like a camera, but you can see the 16 lenses. And he had the patent for this particular projector. In May of 1887, however, LePrince and his family returned to Leeds, where his innovation took a large and important step for both him and cinematography. He built a new camera with the purpose of capturing motion pictures, but this time it was a single lens camera. That was only the tip of the iceberg of his invention. There were a number of problems to be overcome if motion pictures were to be achieved, and the mind-bending action cam-esque results from LePrince's 16 camera crate were one part of the multifaceted challenge. He had come to the conclusion that it wasn't as straightforward as having the shutter open and close 16 times per second, as the exposure wouldn't be correct and the film would be moving, which would create a blurred result. LePrince created a sort of clamp that would stop the film every time the shutter opened, but this would cause the film to snap as if it makes its way through the process. This meant that there had to be an additional alteration where the film only moved when the shutter was closed. The solution is the reason for open and closed being in quotations when discussing the single lens camera. The camera shutter was actually nothing more than a hole in a rotating disc, a very intelligent approach. Unfortunately, capturing the motion picture was only half the problem. The next minefield to be navigated was projecting the results as the intended moving image. With flexible celluloid not being readily available quite yet, the only real option was for the images to be put onto glass slides and to have them move in front of a lens. The slides would be put on a sort of conveyor belt that would rotate them in order of the front lens and then back around again, so that the continuous projection could be achieved. As you might have spotted, the difficulties with doing this are nearly a perfect mirror of capturing the images in the first place. Namely, the slides had to move in the same speed they were captured without the slides moving within the device too much. Nevertheless, LePrince had made a monumental breakthrough. The first motion picture captured, and it is believed to be the first ever. It was of the Leeds Bridge in 1888. It is said that LePrince used the location which had the most movement that he could think of. You can see that video below. So it really doesn't show anything, just the movement of the people walking, but this is a still shot of that. LePrince was proud of his invention and excited to share his few motion pictures created with his wife, who had remained in the U.S. His wife prepared a theater in their home for a grand unveiling, and LePrince packed up his equipment and set off first to resolve his family business in France before making his way to New York to demonstrate his creations and patent the new technology and methods. He never made it to New York, however. Mysterious disappearance. In early September 1890, prior to his voyage to New York to rejoin his family, LePrince made his way to Bourges in central France to visit some friends for a few days. Then on September 13th, he traveled east to the capital of the Burgundy region in Dijon, where he stayed with his brother Albert. 3 days later, LePrince was waved farewell to his brother at the Dijon station as he boarded the Dijon to Paris express train. When the train arrived at the Parisian station later on September 16th, LePrince's friends were met with an unusual circumstance. Louis didn't get off the train. Even more unsettling, he wasn't on the train, nor were any trace of his luggage or belongings. The Dijon to Paris express was said to have had no stops in between, and his brother, Arthur, confirmed his departure. None of the other commuters reported any strange behavior or emergency exits. The French police, London, Scotland Yard, and the LePrince family and friends launched an extensive search and an investigation into his whereabouts, but Louis, his corpse, his belongings, nor any clues were ever found. It isn't often that a person vanishes without a trace, and LePrince's family and friends claimed foul play for many years, suspecting his competitors. There have never been any conclusive results to the case, and he was declared dead in absentia in 1897. However, in 2003, research of the Paris police archives yielded a drowning victim in 1890, said to resemble LePrince, though it has not been confirmed, and it does not dispel half of the primary theories surrounding his disappearance, of which there are 4. 2 prominent theories can be, with a degree of confidence, disregarded, and we will list these first. Suicide. A well-planned and executed suicide could account for his traceless disappearance, and LePrince's grandson speculated as such to the film historian George Boutonnet, citing that Louis was on the verge of bankruptcy. The financial threat to his case spawned another related story. Disappearance for familial convenience. Again, on the assumption that LePrince was in severe financial difficulty, cinema historian Jacques Delandais posited in 1966 that Louis agreed to vanish due to problems over money and familial conveniences. The suicide theory and other proposal based on financial difficulty have been debunked. The prince's business was profitable, and his newest success in the race for the first moving picture meant he had no real motive to do so. The familial conveniences suggestion was unbacked by a journalist in 1977 who quoted a note shown to him by the director of the Dijon Municipal Library that claimed that he died in 1898 in Chicago. LePrince was said to have moved there for his family's sake, decidedly more plausible and follow the notion of foul play. Fratricide. Fratricide is the murder of one's sibling, and that is a question that ought to have been posed early on in the case. Arthur LePrince's brother was the last person to see Louis alive and claims to have watched him depart on the express train he never disembarked from. Perhaps it could be said that Arthur had the means to kill his brother, but the real question is of motive. In Jean Mitre's book, History to Cinema, Mitre claims that the most likely scenario is that LePrince didn't ever board that train in Dijon, and that he was either killed by Arthur for money, or that Arthur made no attempt to stop his suicide, as he had been covered already. However, no family or friends at the time felt that Louis was suicidal, and evidence appears to point to the contrary. LePrince was excited by his new invention and had a profit-making business. Assassination. No good conspiracy theory is complete without an assassination strand to it, but of all the theories, this is the one with the most motive. In 1889, LePrince was about to patent his new projector as well as exhibiting his new motion picture in New York. The race to achieve this had, for all intents and purposes, been won by Louis, and patented his inventions would secure his legacy in cinematography. This prompted the LePrince family's suspicions of Thomas Edison over a patent now known as Equity 6928. The result of who was awarded this patent was the person who would have invented the moving motion picture camera, and it was of great importance. The American Mutoscope Company initiated litigation against Edison in a war of the patents over Equity 6928, hoping to have LePrince properly credited for the creation of the motion picture camera, and called upon Adolphe LePrince, Louis' eldest son, to be a witness. Adolphe, who had worked closely with his father on a number of his experiments, and the hope was that the court, hearing his many achievements, would gain LePrince the recognition he so deserved. Unfortunately, the initial case was awarded in the favor of Edison, and just 2 years later any hope of an appeal was shattered when Adolphe LePrince was found dead on Fire Island near New York while out hunting ducks. That was a self-portrait of Louis LePrince. Whatever the cause of his untimely death, Louis LePrince's legacy has been growing ever since, with his recognition finally materializing. In recent years, LePrince has been credited with as the original inventor of the moving picture camera, and his genius is finally being appreciated. So this is kind of an interesting case. They, I guess, didn't go into too many details because nobody knows what happened, but there's some very suspicious factors that have to do with this issue of the patent. So Louis LePrince developed this camera. He went to New York to get a patent 3 years prior for the 16 lens, that 16 lens box that I had showed you originally. So he went over, he had patents in Europe. He needed one in the United States. He got a patent for that camera. However, it took him 2 years to get that patent, and he was arguing back and forth with the patent office over what should be a relatively easy thing to do. You know, he had developed this camera. Nobody else had it. There wasn't a dispute about it. But for some reason, the patent office was unwilling to give him the patent for his particular invention. And he started to investigate as to what was was the issue. And the issue was one of the biggest inventors of all time, Thomas Edison, was also sort of working on a moving picture type camera. He wasn't directly working on it. He had other people working on it, but he wanted the patent for his invention. It just wasn't at any stage that was usable at that time. That was the problem, and the reason Louis LePrince couldn't get his patent very easily was because apparently Thomas Edison had a lot of people within the patent office, I guess, who were either paid supporters, or I'm not exactly sure, but somehow they were very careful not to give LePrince exactly what he needed. And like I said, it took him 2 years to get a minimum version for that 16 lens camera. He still didn't get the patent that he needed, though. The patent that he needed had very specific wording, this 6928, whatever it is. That particular patent has a sentence in it. It sounds so silly, but that sentence is the key to the whole case. So I wish they had written it down someplace over here. I don't know it word for word, but basically it designated that this was a single or multi-lens camera that was able to capture motion with that opening and shutting of the shutter. That was the key to the invention, was this technique. And like they said, Louis LePrince developed the system where he used a peephole, basically, where the celluloid would slide past, and then he didn't have to use this shut method, which would stop the film from moving and cause blurring and so forth. So he had developed this technique. Edison couldn't figure it out. Louis LePrince worked in secret. He did have people, during those years, try to steal any information and whatever he could, but he then decided he was only going to work with family members just to sort of protect himself from that sort of thing. So this was like a very competitive market. Now the thing about Edison was, Edison didn't develop as many things as he's credited for. He actually got patents for a lot of inventions, and he made the majority of his money through litigation over those patents over the years. Many of his inventions were actually invented by other people or people that worked for him, but he then would pay them off, and then, or sometimes, I don't know if he outright stole things, but basically, especially when those people used to, especially when those individuals worked for him, somehow, then he was able to obtain the rights to that invention, and then he would get the patent, and then he would get the money. So a lot of his stuff was back engineered from other people's experiments, and Louis LePrince was an individual who he had no control over, and who was developing his stuff in Europe, so he didn't have direct access to him. So another way for LePrince to sort of bypass this patent issue, because apparently the patent office was very determined, adamant not to give him the patent once he even developed that motion picture, the single lens camera. They did not want to give this 6928 patent to him. So what he did, the way to bypass the patent office at that time in history, was to display your invention publicly, so that it was like photographed and put in a newspaper, dated, etc., that the public had seen it and had put it on public display. So that's what he was going to New York to do. I don't know if it was a state fair or what the event was, but his plan was he was scheduled to debut his motion picture camera there, and I think we have the first. This little short is it's very quick, so it keeps flashing. But that was what he had filmed of his family members, and then I guess he had something else. Plus, I guess the Leeds Bridge, and he must have had a few other little short clips that he was going to show. And like I said, these were developed 3 years before Edison ever was able to back engineer or figure out how to do whatever he had done. So he absolutely had dibs on this. There was no question whether the patent office was going to recognize him or not. So he was scheduled for this event. There's no way that he would just suddenly decide to commit suicide. The question does become a little weird as far as the brother is concerned, because the brother says he put him on the train, but then nobody got off the train, and he was not registered. I don't know if he wasn't registered on the train, but I think that was also the case, that there was no sign of his luggage. There should have been like some sort of backtracking ability. That did he get a ticket? Did he? And apparently there was nothing. So then the question is this brother making this whole story up, or what's going on? Is the brother involved? Was the brother paid off? Nobody knows if the brother is directly or indirectly involved with this. It's a little suspicious, though, that, you have a guy saying, yeah, I said goodbye to him. I took him to the train station, and he got on the train, and that was the end of that. And, you can't get on a train if you haven't bought a ticket. So something is weird in, I think they originally called him Albert, but then I think maybe his name was Arthur. Anyway, there's something weird in that story. Something is not correct. So either he did not drop him off right where he says, maybe he just took him to the train station and never saw him get on the train, which then could mean anything could have happened to him, in the walk towards the train, and who knows where he met his demise. But he never got on the train. He never bought a ticket. He was taken out at some point before actually boarding the train. So Albert is still a little bit, the brother, whatever his name was, is still a little bit suspicious if he maybe is not explaining himself correctly, and he actually might have just dropped him off but never actually got him on the train, type of a thing. Then possibly he has nothing to do with it. But in any case, something clearly happened to LePrince at that station, somewhere at that station. And because of the timing, because this, if he had shown his camera in New York, which is where he was going, that would have been the end. It would not have mattered who got the patent 6928 at that point, because publicly everybody would have seen it, and it would have been done 3 years ahead of time. This was Thomas Edison didn't even have anything to show at this time. So the belief is that he sent some kind of goons to take this guy out. Now, his invention was secure at his particular location. It was locked up. That didn't get touched. He didn't have that with him. But he did have paperwork. He did have his other patents. All of that is gone. So his luggage, everything is missing. And, like they said, there is no body. There's no trace of him. Now, if that drowning victim possibly could be him, I don't know. But, it's so difficult with the remains, if they didn't have any kind of dental records or any way to prove that it's LePrince. I mean, I suppose they could do that with DNA. If they have surviving family members, they might be able to show that there's some genetic, connection, but generally it's very difficult. Also, the witnesses at the train station said that they did not see this person. He's actually a big guy. He was 6 feet 4 inches. So he's like a big, kind of a burly man. So people would have noticed this particular individual station and nobody did. So something happened prior to the station. It makes this brother very suspicious. What the reason that he had gone to France in the first place, the family business that he was dealing with, was a divvying up of the will, the family will. So because of his, once he was declared dead by absentia, the brother did inherit his portion of the inheritance, which was something like $114,000, which was a lot of money, I think, at that time, definitely. But it was, he did get his portion then, so that does make it a little suspicious, but he didn't get it right away. It's a pretty big deal for someone to take their sibling out just for a situation of money, and it was actually kind of foolish, because if he did do that, LePrince was about to make a lot more money with the patent in place. Like if he had actually shown his device in New York and gotten the chance to publicly show it, he would have been the legit developer of the motion picture camera and would have received money. His family, his company would have received money, just untold amounts after that. So the brother would have benefited, I'm sure, to some degree as well from that sort of a situation, or could have, if all he was after was money. So I don't know if this was just not well thought out, or what actually happened. This sideline rumor of the LePrince wanting to just go off with some boyfriend of his or something like that, that even seems a little bit far-fetched, because again, he could have done whatever he needed to do, but his plan was to show this camera. That doesn't have anything to do with his social life. He had a company, it was lucrative. This would have made it even more lucrative. Everything was in place, so I don't think that LePrince had any plans of leaving. I think that somebody did not want him to show that camera in New York, and the only person really is Edison and his team. There are a few other contenders, because you have the Lumiere brothers in France, and a few other people who were developing cameras, but they don't seem to be directly involved with this situation of very aggressive, U.S. patent, obtaining U.S. patents as Edison was. Edison was aggressively going after people, aggressively taking people's inventions and then getting patents and then getting a lot of money for them. And it was a business. It was like much more of a business than his invention business, was finding other inventors and then getting patents for their particular inventions. And I didn't even know this about him. This was kind of like a sideline story, because there are a lot of, if you start investigating Edison, there are numerous families that are, that had lawsuits against him for their ideas being stolen, and that they were never able to win those cases. But when you look at the numbers of how many people are saying the exact same thing, that something was stolen, and then people have had a strange way of disappearing, this becomes very suspicious behavior. And then, on top of all of that, when you have a situation of the litigation actually going on posthumously, so LePrince is missing, gone, you would think that that would be the end of it. But his family was not giving up, because he had invented this motion picture camera, and he had invented it 3 years prior to the date of the patent being given to Edison anyway. There really was no question of anything. And still, although the patent was awarded to Edison, because he had the actual device, or his version of the device whenever he did get the patent. The second lawsuit that was going on was going in the favor of LePrince's son, because that footage that I showed you, this one, this little dancing scene. Okay, so the elderly woman, I won't put it there because it keeps flashing. The elderly woman in the scene is LePrince's mother, or the grandmother, and she passed away, but she has a death certificate, but she's obviously alive dancing in this movie, in this little clip. And so because of that, because they had that clip, and the death certificate that proved without a doubt that he had created a little movie with somebody who had already passed, and they had a death certificate, there was no question about it. Thomas Edison knew he was going to lose the patent if that was shown in court, and that was basically what was going to happen. That's what he was going to do. And then, lo and behold, LePrince's son is also found dead from it just randomly during a hunting incident. This is very suspicious. He's out hunting ducks, but then he gets shot, and he had, the key evidence that would have eliminated Edison's claim to the motion picture camera. So I just think it's way too suspicious. This was apparently a major invention. I think that they knew the potential of, the potential of public interest. They may not have understood how much money the movie industry would eventually come to make, but they clearly had a sense that there was a lot of money to be made, and it was apparently worth 2 murders, because I really do think that that's what happened. The first was by the inventor, who never got to show his machine, and then the second was his son, who had evidence to prove that his invention had been created at the time that he claimed. It makes it very suspicious, and, it really should be investigated. I mean, it's one thing just to say that, okay, the patent should be awarded posthumously. Now with all of this new evidence, or whatever evidence they were able to come up with, at least they do have the evidence of that movie being made. So he does have, I guess, I don't know if in history books, in film schools, what they say, if it's LePrince or Edison, or who they claim to be the first. Because when I was reading, I remember in my film studies class, it was the Lumiere brothers. I don't remember ever reading about LePrince. And then Edison's name was in there, but LePrince's wasn't. So I don't know if they should be, if making the correction would be enough. But truthfully, his company, because I think that the family did maintain some version of it, should be awarded the patent, even posthumously, and they should be awarded the, back payments or whatever, royalties that, should have gone to him in the first place. So it's a very surprising thing, that there was such a high stakes business. But I guess the movie industry, from literally the onset, has had this seedy side to it, that it kind of continues to this day, where, very strange occurrences happen, because I guess there's a lot of money, or at least the potential for money to be made, and that's, especially in that particular industry, seems to be a motivational factor for a lot of disappearances of this particular nature. Okay, so this was the mysterious disappearance of Louis LePrince, and he was the developer of the motion picture camera. Okay guys, so I hope you have a good night, and I'll talk to you again next time.